Good morning, world. Welcome to another episode of Between Thought and Action. Today, I kind of want to talk about our patterns and how they kind of shape us over time. There's a dangerous lie that a lot of us carry around every single day, and it sounds just like this. This is just who I am. I used to live like that, not always out loud, but underneath a lot of my choices, that was there. Too many things to name, honestly, but drinking, nicotine, television, video games in excess, a very sedentary lifestyle, escaping into what felt good right then, right in the moment, even when I know better, right? I already kind of talked about that. Like, I probably started smoking when I was like 15, 16, and I knew it was bad, but at the time I wanted to fit in, or, I had a stressful day working at a really crap job, and I decided, let me try this. But that's the part that really eats at you. It's one thing to make a mistake out of ignorance. It's another thing entirely to know something is hurting you and still keep choosing it every single day. I made that decision out of ignorance when I was younger, but I perpetuated it for 20 years past that. That was the cycle. Immediate satisfaction, just immediate satisfaction instead of delayed gratification. Temporary relief at the cost of long-term peace. And the scary part is, in that exact moment of taking action, it worked. It always does, for a second. Smoking, vaping, zoning out, numbing out in that moment, yeah, it feels good. I felt better. But over time, every decision I made that I knew was bad for me fed something darker underneath. Dissatisfaction, self-betrayal, a voice in my own head I couldn't stand listening to anymore. It grew and grew and grew and grew until I just couldn't stand what I was looking at in the mirror. I didn't recognize that person anymore. I didn't recognize the voice in my own head. I hit a breaking point, not even asking what's wrong with me, just knowing I cannot keep identifying with what I have become. I want to be fair to myself here too. It's not like there's nothing good in me or there wasn't anything good in me. There absolutely was, still is. Love, gratitude, empathy, care for other people. When you've been through some dark things in your life, it can make it hard not to love other people deeply. So this wasn't about hating myself. It was just about clarity and seeing myself clearly, that some of my patterns were no longer aligned with the person I want to be, the person I am, not want to be, the person I am. Looking back, those patterns were trying to protect something: comfort, routine, familiarity, but it's fake comfort. I can tell you that now without a shadow of a doubt. I have never been more comfortable in my own skin than I am right now. That shift changes everything, and it changed everything for me, starting with something simple. All it took to kind of get the small shift for me was I started doing push-ups, just 20 at a time. That's it, push-ups. And I got to give a lot of love to my current circle because they joined me. I'd start doing them and they'd come over and they'd join me. Sometimes they'd start and I'd join them. Kind of on that note, I have to pause and give thanks directly to my brothers Jordan and Andre. Thank you both for joining me in the solidarity of the physical fitness. It has been priceless to my development. It got me out of that routine of just once again just doing nothing, just sitting there, turning on the TV, vegging out, just nothing. But I had this kind of flash of recognition while I was doing some of these push-ups. And it was just like, this is who I am. Not the version of me chasing instant gratification, not the version of me looking for the quickest relief, but the version of me that used to put in the real work and get real rewards through that delayed gratification. And what's crazy is once it clicked, the work didn't even feel like work anymore, because I realized something. I hadn't become a lazy man. I was just living in lazy patterns. I hadn't become weak. I was choosing weakness. I wasn't broken. I had just been repeating broken patterns on autopilot. That distinction changed my world. I don't say that lightly. I feel more whole now than I have in 2 decades. Once that clicked, things started moving fast. I quit nicotine cold turkey. I had been nicotine free for, I think, going on 3 weeks now. That same day, I quit drinking soda. I used to drink 2-3 sodas a day, and I'd be lucky. I say lucky now, but I would actively avoid drinking water. Let me be honest. I know I say this with confidence, but it wasn't easy. Even now, almost a month clean, I still get callbacks. My old routines and my old patterns are still there. I'll be leaving the house to go to work in the morning, and I get my mental checklist going. I got my phone, got my wallet, got my keys, got my vape. Wait, I don't vape anymore. That's not me anymore. So I had to, once again, I got to replace these things. Like I said, you got to empty your cup, and you got to fill it with something better for yourself. So now that space is, hey, I got my phone, I got my wallet, I got my keys, and I got my water bottle. That matters because nature hates a vacuum. You don't just remove a pattern, you got to replace it. You empty part of your cup to be filled with something better. And I've seen that in even small things. At work, I have a Monster coffee every day. I don't buy it. It's actually a gift. Someone brings it to me every day. And strangely enough, that has become another kind of point of gratitude in my life. Someone cares about me enough and the impact I've had on them that they go out of their way to get me something every single day without me asking. I've even asked them, like, hey, you don't need to do that. I appreciate it. But and they tell me, no, I want to do this for you because of all of the things you have done for me. And that, it feels so good. Oh man, it feels good. But instead of feeding an unconscious loop, once again, it becomes a moment of appreciation, a blessing. And I think that's an important distinction for me. Like, I won't buy them because every action I take is a vote for the person I want to become, but I will accept any blessing without resistance and with gratitude. That one idea alone has changed how I see everything. Once again, every action is a vote. Every time you pull out your wallet, you're voting for the person you want to become. Every time you take an action, once again, you're voting for the person you want to become. Every action is a signal to yourself. This is who I am choosing to be. Who do you want to be? What do you want to be? You want to be a person who wastes their life in front of Netflix, or you want to be the person who goes out and creates something beautiful and shows the world what you're capable of? Like a month ago, no way I'm sitting in front of this camera with confidence to just speak my truth and put it out to the world. I have it now, and it feels good. But that brings me to kind of a deeper truth, and if this resonates with any of you, remember, you're not broken. You potentially just have some behaviors that are living on autopilot, inside habits you've repeated long enough to confuse them with your identity. That's all a pattern is. It's a repeated choice, and eventually it starts to feel like your personality or a trait of your personality. It's not you. It's just something you do, and once you see that, that's where you can make change. The reason why people say that, oh, people don't change is because they're not willing to do the work. They don't want to look at themselves. They don't want to look at their broken patterns. They don't want to admit the mistakes they've made. It's shadow work. It's tough to face yourself. It's one of the biggest fears that most of us have, even potentially more than the fear of death. But once again, it's not you. You can change it. And it doesn't mean that process is easy. The hard part for me has been grieving my old comforts. That's the real fight, because comfort is a goddamn trap. Honestly, I think it's one of the worst things that we love as human beings. And I'm not saying comfort in a healthy sense. I'm not talking about peace. I'm not talking about rest. I mean false comfort. Comfort that keeps you numb. The comfort that keeps you small. The comfort that asks nothing of you in return, and therefore it gives you nothing back. That part has to be grieved, because even when something is hurting you, it has become familiar. It'll be part of you that you still miss, and that's okay. But there's that voice that you gotta kill. This voice, that voice that says, oh, just one more time. That voice is real. It tries to negotiate. It tries to justify. It tries to make one small exception sound harmless to pull you right back into your bad patterns and the person that you were desperately trying to escape. But I've realized something about that voice. It has no place for the person I'm becoming and the person I am. And that's where your awareness matters. Because if you have to justify an action to yourself, that's your signal right there. That friction, that inner negotiation That subtle knowing, it's telling you something. You just got to listen, and you got to be brave enough to listen and actually follow through and hold yourself accountable to what it's saying. Most people call it guilt, but I think it's clarity sometimes. And once you see it clearly, you have a choice. You see, you reflect, and then you create. So you see your patterns, you reflect on what they're really doing to you, and you create a different response. You choose differently. That's how you take your life back. Not all at once, not through some perfect reinvention or renovation, but one conscious choice at a time, one vote at a time, one interruption of your bad patterns at a time. And for me, this isn't about becoming who I used to be, you know, that old version of myself that used to wrestle and, you know, go out in the world, and like there's qualities of that person I love and I want, but there's also qualities of that person that led me to the bad behaviors I had. So you know, like qualities I take back: discipline, dedication to a craft, dedication to my health, a willingness to work through the resistance it takes to be great. But that older version of me had, like I said, wounds too, issues that eventually fed me to not who I want to be again. So no, I'm not becoming that person again. I'm becoming a bigger and better version of myself than I ever used to be and ever dreamed I could be. Our bodies, our minds, our spirits, they're all three of those things are instruments. They require fine tuning. If you too light on the string or too tight on the string, it's going to break when you try to strum it. It's too rigid. You got to have a little flex, right? If they're too loose, you can't really play any music. Nothing can be made on that. But when they're tuned just right, and they're working together, all three of them are tuned just right, you get something that is simple and beautiful. A simple G chord, you know, just beauty. And that's how I've started to see this whole journey, not as a punishment, not as perfection, but as tuning, adjusting, listening closely, learning when I've gone too far, too tight or too loose, you know, not enough one way or the other. Because alignment isn't about becoming rigid, and it isn't about letting everything go either. It's about finding the tension that creates harmony. And when that happens, your life starts to sound different. And maybe that's the work. Maybe that's the real work. Not going backward, not throwing yourself away, but integrating what has always been the best parts of you and leaving the rest of it behind. You're not broken, you're patterned. And patterns can be changed. Catch the pattern, interrupt your autopilot, and vote for who you're becoming. Once again, I appreciate you guys always joining me here, and if you like what you're hearing, I'd appreciate a like, share, subscribe. But stay blessed out there with all the love and gratitude. Thank you for your time and joining me on this journey. Take care, guys.